Alright, boys, so the simple fact is, yeah, I'm not the best at controlling my spending. So I came up with all these steps to make sure that I don't overspend and to learn how to gradually control. Because there are things in life that I want, and a lot of times these things are, they might be small things, but you end up spending and spending, and next thing you know, all the little things add up to thousands of dollars. So it's very important to prioritize which things are important for you. Like a lot of these things that I have in my house is either free, like the chair, the sofa that I have is free, the table that I just put up is free, you know. This chair that I have behind here also is free. And then things like the vacuum cleaner, I had to wait for years before I got something that lived up to my expectations because I wanted a Dyson and the Dyson is super expensive. So what do? Save up, then when I hit the 2K or so that I needed to buy the Dyson, there's always something else to buy. And the fact of the matter is, many times you will come across things that you think you need or you think you want, but you just either cannot afford it easily, or if you have a credit card, then there's always the risk that you think, hey, I can just put it on the card and pay it off slowly. But the fact of the matter is, all these little, hey, I can afford it gradually problems will come out and then you end up struggling to pay off, or you max out your credit card and you pay the minimum and you're ending up paying more and more and more and more. The simple fact is, if you have a credit card, you should, even if you get a very high limit credit card, doesn't matter, don't spend until that point. You should always spend something that you can pay off next month, or even better still, if you have the money in the pocket, then you put it on the credit card to get the points. Then don't use the credit card for things that you don't have the money to pay for now. So it's very important to consider that. Uh, I buy a lot of bits and pieces and it adds up. I've this month alone on my card I've spent 3,000. But because I have the money on hand in my bank account to pay it off, then I'm not so worried. That next month I cannot pay. No, I don't have such worry because I must have that money. If I have the 3,000 in my bank account now, next month when it comes around, I can pay it off easily, and then my allowance comes in, then I can also see what else. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot buy something that just because you have the credit card limit doesn't mean you have that money. That money is not yours. So unless you have, like, let's say you have 10K and you want to spend 5K of that amount, then you just think about it lah. After that, you have 5K only instead of 10K, and then you will have a more limited spending ability. So maybe that 5K thing is not really worth 5K. Maybe you wait a couple of years, or if you're like me, like, you wait for freaking 7 or 8 years, then suddenly there's a ton of similar products that are 200 ringgit instead of 2,000 ringgit. So you end up spending much less than you would have. And then, honestly, without Dyson, I bought a 400 ringgit industrial vacuum cleaner, and that served me well for many years. And then now that I have something similar and it's much cheaper, I don't have to use the industrial vacuum, but that vacuum is still around and it still works. If I need to vacuum water and things like that, I can do that. The other thing you must consider is the alternatives because sometimes you haven't reached the point where you have deserved the actual thing. And why, for example, why am I justify buying the MX keys is many reasons. One of the reasons is the unifying receiver will allow to work with my mouse, and I can use just one and then I actually wanted the light up keys that it has. So there aren't many wireless keyboards that can light up, and some of the wireless keyboards that can light up, they are not low profile keys, they're not easily portable, and it doesn't have a numpad. That's the other thing that I was looking for. So either I can buy a numpad, or I can buy a wired keyboard, or I just use what I have, which is a wired keyboard, or I can buy a Bluetooth keyboard that has numpad but no light. So the end of the day, I looked at all the options for a few months already, and before that I was thinking of buying it for a long time, but I didn't really find a justification. And then lately, last sem and this sem, I've been using the numpad a lot, so I realized that I need the numpad. It's not negotiable in this case lah. So other than a Xiaomi that I was looking at, which doesn't have lights, there's nothing else in the market that is suitable. There are other compromises that I would have to give up, whether I give up the lights or whether I give up the unifying receiver or whether I give up the numpad. So I already have a Logitech Bluetooth keyboard that doesn't have numpad, and I've used that for a year already, and I realized that for this period of time in my life I need the numpad, so I guess this is the option lah. And even when I decided to buy it, at first there's no stock at all, so looking around there was a Mac option which was around 489, 500 plus, so I decided not to bother to go to the Mac shop because it's a Mac oriented one, where although it works fine for Windows as well, but because it's a Mac oriented one, it's a little bit less comfortable for me to use on a Windows machine. Because this keyboard I'm getting is the standard one, which has both Windows and Mac markings, whereas the Mac oriented one only has Mac markings, so it gets a bit more confusing if you get it. So after thinking about all the other solutions, then I just every day nothing better to do when I'm a bit free. I go on to Carousel, I go onto Facebook Marketplace, and then I look at if there's nothing, there's nothing. So I just ignore it and just continue using my wired keyboard. But now that I can find it, the fella is willing to negotiate to $400 and he's willing to come to me. So okay, it's perfect timing, and I have the money spare in my account. So okay, I am willing to spend that $400. But if let's say I only have $800, for example, I would never buy something like this. You must always have some buffer, some spare standby. At least have 1 to 2K standing by your account just in case of basic emergencies, or if you need to save somebody's life or help somebody. It's always good to have some buffer and some spare that you don't touch unless absolutely emergency. There's many years that I've spent money until I have no money in my account, and I regret it and there's few times where I needed to do something and I don't have money, and then my friends were very nice and they were willing to lend me the money. So it's not a great place to be. So if you can, just make sure you have savings that you can easily access, not just like, oh, I have savings but my parents have control over it or something. I don't have an ATM card or something like that. So it's best to have some savings on hand, anytime you need, and don't look at it as anytime you want to spend you can spend. It's more like anytime you need to spend, then you can spend. Sometimes things like this come along where you can afford it. Like if next month, there's suddenly a guitar that I want to get, and it's within 5,000 or something like that, then I would have the money standby on hand already. But if I don't have the money, then the good deal can pass you by anytime. So if you don't have the money, it's never a good deal. But if you have the money and it's a good price, then you can sometimes get something good that you've been wanting for a while. So you should start planning your savings. No matter how good a deal is, if you don't have the money for it, it's not a good deal. But if it's you have the money for it and you have planned to get it already, it's just that you don't feel like paying the full retail price, then save up and then have money on standby because the cash on hand is always more powerful than if you have products and you have items and things that you feel like, hey, this one good value, can sell anytime one. The truth of the matter is I've also done that, invested in many guitars and things like that I felt this one can sell anytime one, and then after that when I need to sell it, time die, cannot sell. So the best is always have cash on hand, and then when it comes to it, if you need to sell something, you're not urgently looking to sell it. Honestly, now COVID, I see on Carousel every day there's people selling things because they don't have cash on hand. They spend the money where they don't have the money to afford that kind of lifestyle or luxury So then they're willing to negotiate on prices and things like that. So sometimes you can get a good deal, but if you don't have cash on hand, it's never a good deal Alright, so this is my advice to you